All right. Well, good morning. This is our Friday Health Coach Huddle Up. And what are we looking at here? I don't even know what the date is. I think it's the 19th, maybe. May 19th. Is that what it is? Yep, May 19th. Can you believe it? So I don't know if you recognize me because I'm a year older now. I'm getting to be an old grandpa, 49, last Sunday. And but we have a fun lineup. We've been working through some really cool stuff. We started our 21 days of consistency, and today was day 3. So I'm curious to see how that's going for folks and what you guys are thinking about that. So let's. Now I do have a lawnmower going in the background. Can you hear that now?
Yeah, a little
You
bit.
can. Okay, so I'll probably move inside.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kim, I think you had like some fabulous, insightful questions to kind of get the conversation and thought process rolling. Do you mind kicking off with that?
Sure. I just really wanted to know what people are excited about because, I've been coaching for a few years now, and it's funny because something so small as this, actually, I'm really excited about it. So I'm curious what other people are excited about. Just in that, taking that action in 15 minutes a day. Anybody willing to hop off mute and share?
Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
I can start. I have no problem starting with that. The three of us were talking about stories. You're going to hear my little man, but we were talking about all the stories that were coming up in the comments and just how exciting that is, because here we meet together, and not necessarily everybody does, meet here, but we don't even know each other's stories that intimately, and it was just fabulous to get to see those and hear them.
All right, I'm jumping in since Diane's on pause mode.
Debbie jumped in too.
Yeah. Debbie, was she going to say something?
Well, I took myself off mute, but
okay, go for it.
I agree with Daniela. It was so interesting to see the different approaches we took to asking about whether or not somebody was looking for something. Everybody had their own little version of it, and they were all so good. And and I just think it's a great idea, and I'm really excited to pursue the people and stuff. I did do a little of it yesterday, but gonna power hour tomorrow for sure. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting thing. So today from 10 to 11, we do have just our traditional daily power hour, and then tomorrow morning from 8 to 9 is another one, and you guys are welcome to join in those. And if you have gotten behind on the 15 days and you want to have a scheduled time where a bunch of health coaches do an activity, do some homework together, that would be it's already happening, so you can just pop in.
Yeah.
Carrie, are you waving at me? No.
What's going on, Diane?
Okay. It's really been fun because seeing Craig's story in print or in writing or whatever, and Alex's is like, oh, wow. You just don't know all of the little pieces to somebody's story. I mean, Alex's, I knew a little bit, and Craig, I knew a little bit, but when you see it in print, it makes more of an impression, I think. So it's nice to have the remotivation, the reinvigoration to do this business. That's what it's been for me. So.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Like what Diane is saying, there's a lot of people who don't know certain parts of your life, and we take it, just kind of presumptuously that people kind of know us. But when you write that story out, I was writing it out, and I was mindful about what parts do I share that are relevant, because it's about them, as much as it's about me. It's about, I'm trying to awaken something in someone else, trying to hit a heartstring or resonating there. And that's what inspiration is. And to see all of the likes and the comments, I'll talk about my story just for a moment. I was surprised at how many people actually watch me and follow me on Facebook that hadn't been liking or commenting on certain things. And this story, for whatever reason, I think it was I went to another degree of transparency. And I found it very interesting because I actually talked briefly about going through my divorce, but not the details, but just how much it hurt me. I just said it literally crushed my soul at the time. It was the most thing. And I ended up in the hospital from ulcers. And wow, I got so many likes and comments, and about a third of those so far, and I've had a ton, are from people I haven't talked to in years that were in my life prior to my divorce. And it just reawakened. I think they needed to see me come to that vulnerable place. And I recognize that I've actually, I know I've been healing from this, and I think I am healed from it, but I've been coming out on it. And that is, people need to see that you're real and that you have pain and hurt. And I'm recognizing that because it's actually rekindled some really great relationships that have just started on Facebook, and now they're going to the phone. And I don't need them just to be a client, right? Like, I'm excited about engaging people again from more transparency. So that's my first thing. And then second thing is, I'll let Eileen share about what's happened with Carter. But before you do that, does anybody have any comments about what I just shared? Because I don't want to just bowl over that.
I like that last piece you said there. Is this idea of serving people. You put your story out there, and if it serves people, great. And you said, I'm not looking to just bring on clients. I'm looking to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even like your story served people in a way because it was relatable. And so they were like, I don't know, you just became approachable, or you became real, and we're looking for real.
Mm-hmm.
And so I liked how you finished that up. I'm not trying to just get them as clients. I'm just loving reconnecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's been sorry, go ahead. Whoever else was gonna.
Well, I think she's going to change topics. So go ahead and finish that, Daniela.
Dishwasher.
Okay. I was just going to say that it continues to surprise me, as long as I've been doing this, the power of reposting your story or posting it even with an addition to it, because I think over time our story changes a little bit. The power of that and how many people respond to that, because in all honesty, I did not expect the over 100, responses that I got. That's a combination of likes and comments at all after all this time that I've been doing this. Just the power of the story. And, somebody had commented to me, another coach, that, we should be running these through like a grammatical check or things like that. And I know my brain can go there sometimes, but what I'm realizing is, no, that's not what it's about. It's about one person sharing their heart with another person and finding those impactful statements that reach them. And I've just continued to be in awe at the power of that, and what happens if you simply change your profile picture to your before and after. Even though I've done it before, my brain starts to think it's old, but you know what? Other people's brains don't think it's old, and there's new people out there that we're friending all the time that it's new for them. So just wanted to share that.
Love it. Eileen, were you going to share? Oh, you switched and now we can't hear you. Can you hear us, Eileen? It's like your camera.
Share just a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah, I was excited because people were asking me, what's your secret and all this. And I was like, wow, Alex, how do I handle that? And so he met with us, a few of us yesterday, and that was really helpful. But also, Carter, one of my clients, he posted his before and after and his story. And oh my goodness, Alex and I were shocked. Like last night, I put down 191 liked his, his story and his before and after, and then 91 comments, and then now it's over 300, and I think maybe close to 100 comments. So I'm blown away. I'm just amazed.
Yeah, and as you're sharing that, so Carter's not even officially a health coach yet, and just to show you how unorthodox we can be, he kind of needed to see that he was needed and wanted in this space before he could pull the trigger on that. So you were on that call, Daniela, where we kind of backed him into coaching by saying, hey, why don't we just take some of the actions of a health coach and see what happens? And so after last night, I was like, Carter, so do you see what we see in you now? He goes, yeah. He goes, okay, let's help some people. Right?
Yeah, because you can't manufacture that. What happened, right? Think of it.
That's right. What it showed me though is it showed me how important it is to have good relationships with people outside of being a health coach. I mean, clearly he's a friend. He's one of the most loving, serving, humble people. And I think people felt extremely safe to like and comment on his post because they felt like there was no, I'm going to get you bone in his body, right? To have that much outpouring. So we're ready to get into action. It's crazy. The second thing I recognize from that is, wow, I've got some serious work to do. And really being systematic about it so that it can be simple and duplicable and not just trying to make up responses. And the approach that I'm seeing with not just Carter, but like all the coaches, that their stories are so much impouring that like, we've just got to get simple on how we respond, not very fancy and unique in too many different ways. That's what will burn your time, is trying to think about what to say to this person. Right. And that's why I did that little side training, because I realized we've just got to get systematic about it. And then on a side note, you can personally engage that person as a friend, but your response for bringing them into the health side of things when they're asking you needs to be very kind of like almost canned in a way.
Well, and you think about that just for a minute. It's if there's this old adage, never give the how before the why, right? Or it's also before you know what they want and why they want it. And so you come up to somebody on the street and they go, oh my goodness, look at you. What are you doing? How did you do it? And so you go back into your toolbox and you say, I'm not going to tell them how I did it, but until I know why they want to know. And it's the same thing on Facebook. You wouldn't want to go out when someone said, wow, what are you doing? And just say, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. You want to, it's the same process as you want to get to why do they ask? You want to get to what's going on in their life. Thank them for noticing. It's really simple, basic things that you would do whether you're on Facebook or not. You want to expound on that? Maybe any Alex or anyone else?
Yeah, I'd love to, and I'll make it brief so other people can too. There's a little pause of acknowledgement that needs to happen, like Craig was saying, before jumping into any detail. And one of them is sometimes just a thank you, gratitude, that humility. And I think that's what Carter really did well. Like that was in his nature. And I inspected it before he did, but he's like, oh, I would always be like, hey, guys, I'm so grateful. And if you guys read on Carter, if you're not a friend of his, read how he writes. It's so humble and gentle that people can't help but want to support this guy. I'm not saying all of us have his personality, but it's a great trait. Second thing is to just before like engaging with, hey, let's do a well-being evaluation or let's get you scheduled, right? It's just, why do you ask? I'm just reinforcing what Craig said. Thank you. What is it you're looking for? You got to get them talking before they think you're trying to do anything forward facing. It's always in their world first. It's not about your world at all. And you're not asking because you're trying to get through your questions, right? Have you guys seen it when somebody's reading a script in their head? So what is it you're looking for? How do you feel about that? What do you want? Right? Versus, oh, tell me about that. And that's all I wanted to share. And that's like what you're saying, Craig, you got to go over there first. And then once they've shared enough, the walls of resistance come down. You can then say, would you like me to share with you what worked for me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a phone call. That's a conversation, not a
Mm-hmm.
this and that on the, yeah.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Well, I'm still learning. I'm still learning from Alex about the simplicity of just showing that you care and then just having a conversation. I feel like, I got to immediately do a well-being evaluation because I got to have 5 done by tomorrow morning. I'm trying to put that in the back of my mind and just connecting with people. And that's, like you guys were saying, not thinking of, I got a potential client, but, I'm going to make this person my client versus just showing them that you care. That's important.
I love how you started it out, Eileen, is you said, I'm still learning. I'm so glad you're like the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. We all are. Yeah.
I'm learning all the time. I never want to stop learning, by the way. Yep.
Something that would really help, and I'm just going to respond to Eileen's comment, is what you just heard in this today is that's a system we use. So write that out. So whenever there's a like or a comment, go to the system, which it's with a checkbox. You write it out for yourself. First, thank them. Check that box. Second, ask them. Of course, if you haven't private messaged them already, I'll private message you, right? And then when you do private message them, finally, it starts with, thank you so much for noticing or commenting on that. What is it that's going on with you? And they share a little bit there. And you say, wow, that's great. I'd love to hear more. Hey, maybe we could. And again, that's a checkbox. It's a checkbox. So when we say we're still learning, that's awesome because we all are. At the same time, let's implement that into a systematic flow so that way it increases the habit learning curve and our brain doesn't have to go memory, right? And last thing is Einstein said, people kept asking Einstein like why he didn't know things like his phone number and why he didn't know basic stuff like remember a certain person that was near and dear to him's address. And he says, why? He goes, I save my brain for things that are actually hard. Like, but basic stuff like that's sequential, I write all that out and I open my notebook, right? So I don't want anybody to think that you have to have all this memorized. It's systemized and then it comes into memory after practice from the system.
So you're saying I'm like Einstein because I have my notebook?
That's right.
Oh, man,
Go back to
thank
those
you.
basics.
I'm glad.
So you can be like Einstein, Eileen Stein.
Yeah.
Type it out, Eileen Stein. Check the
That's
box.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I would love to ask about is just, if anybody here had anything that they maybe are feeling nervous about or felt nervous about that they would like to share or have a little discussion about, this is a great place to do that because we have more people's input, I guess.
Do you guys feel that that the actions are doable in 15 minutes?
Let's pause for a moment. Just because you're putting a question on top of a question, and I know the pause was only 3 seconds, but I'm curious as to Daniela's and then yours, Craig. Mm-hmm. Anybody feeling any hesitation or anything that may be blocking them? And I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're asking, Daniela, but that's kind of how I interpreted it.
Yeah, maybe even just to add, like, the same part of that is like the chatter. If you're feeling chatter about before you act, in
your head, like dialogue, like, yeah. Oh, this could happen, that could happen. What if they think?
Yep.
What would exactly. I say?
Yeah, those kinds of things. Any of that coming up.
I have to say that I like the 21-day challenge that you guys emphasized. If you feel that way, that you contact your mentor. And I always hesitate to bother anybody and and it doesn't happen. And that's one of the things that I feel really like I don't have that feeling this time. I feel like if I do get to that point where I don't think I can do an action, then I'm going to reach out to Alex, and I'm not going to have any hesitation with that. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about.
Cool. I want to hesitate on our hesitation, right?
So I love that. I have a question about that, Debbie, that I don't know if you can necessarily answer, but I'm suspecting you might have an idea about it. Is it the fact that it was blatantly said if you get stuck that to take the action of calling your coach, or what do you think is freeing you up this time? Is it that it's 21 days and there's an action every day and I need to get to it or I'm going to get behind? I mean, what part of that do you think is helping you?
I think it was the enthusiasm that you guys did when you did that first initial one with all three of you, that we're doing this together and this is something that we're going to, and I always hear on the Zooms and the acknowledgement Zooms or the recognition Zooms that, you follow a process, this is what you need to do. And I just really feel like I have an opportunity to take advantage of the process. I mean, you guys are right there. You're right there telling me exactly what I need to do. And as long as I follow it, and I've had times where I hear it in these Zooms of what I need to do, and then the follow through. It's like I plant these little seeds and I believe I let them die because I don't water them, and that's where I need to learn more on how to put myself out there. And it has to do with dealing with my own insecurities and stuff like that. So I don't know what flipped that switch, but
I think you just said it. I think you were pretty clear on it. There's a couple things I want to dissect out of what you said. I think it's so important because Daniela, it's a genius question that you asked, right? And I would love to hear more about where your leadership skill, where you were compelled to ask that, because it's so great. No kidding, it's an amazing question. Because if we can dissect and break down what it was that got us past a barrier, we can use that in all the other areas of our life. Genius question. So the areas that I heard you say are that you're like, okay, you guys were enthusiastic. And we were like, I'm not going to explain anymore. We were enthusiastic. We were energized and fired up. We said, trust the process. Don't have to worry about all the outcomes. Just come along with us. We're leaving the station. We're going. Just go with us. And low barrier, 15 minutes, not all of the actions. Like if we told you all the 21 things that are going to happen all at once, people would be like, right? But I can do 15 minutes, one action side by side. So if we learn that formula, I know there's more that you said, and obviously repetition, we've gone through this several times. You start and got more familiar with us. There's trust there that no one's going to judge you negatively, right? Takes time. Then we can all of a sudden own that.
Yeah, one of the things that I guess is really resonating with me about what Debbie just shared is the togetherness of or the cohesion of the group, right? Which created that enthusiasm. And then also the necessity possibly of repeating an invitation over and over again to help ease a person's chatter between here and here, right? That says that, oh, maybe I'm bothering them, or maybe this is the 5th question in 3 hours. And, and for us as leaders to, at least initially, as people are learning and things like that, to take that extra step of saying, hey, we're here for you. This is what we want. It helps us because more people get healthy. It helps you because you grow your business. And of course, ours grows too. So it's really an all-inclusive helping, because when we help, you help, and it just goes all over. But that for me really resonated, that maybe I need to do a better job at letting my coaches know that I am so happy to help at any time help them move forward.
And I just like the question in general. I think we need to go into this process and expect there, maybe the first 3 days, the first 3 steps feel very natural and not, scary or whatever it might be that would, prompt us to have those thoughts, those chatter, that, doubt, those kinds of things that come in the way. But over the course of 21 days, we're probably going to hit a day where something comes up, and we're all different. We all have our different gifts and talents and everything else. So there's probably going to be, if it hasn't happened yet, there's going to probably be a moment when that's going to happen. And I can tell you, Debbie, that Daniela will be getting a message or a phone call, and I'll be like, okay, everybody else is doing this step. It feels hard to me. Why is that? What is wrong? What's going on here? Help me figure this out. And just knowing that, that's for all of us. I think we all have those moments. And so if we can be aware of the chatter and say, this is my intention is to follow through and do each of these steps. So how can I do this step? And, do I just need to act? Do I entrust? Or is there something I need to kind of switch in my mind to help me make that step?
I just want to call out what's happening right now is we are seeing ourselves going into the trenches with steps and actions, but then there's this observer quality in this conversation of being aware of not only why we're doing what we're doing, but the awareness that we can see ourselves growing and at any point in time go back into what's the thought process that governs the actions. And not to make that too vague, there's just a level of awareness that you're talking about, Kim. And it's huge. And by us acknowledging the question that Daniela asked is genius, because we're really talking about if we can become aware of what thought process was blocking us, causing those hesitations. Maybe it's just the thought process that has fear, scared, not knowing, not feeling good enough, some self-esteem issue. But here's the good news. If we can also become aware that we can just override that at any point in time that we want to and say that can exist and I'm still going to take action. So important. Debbie, I see your smile. I love it.
Well, I just have to say that there's certain areas that I know that I have like seems to I can't get past that, get past that. So so I'm not sure.
Well, you took the action, right? And you did get past whatever it would have been that would have stopped you from taking the day one action, right?
The thing is, I think this process, this 20-day thing, is going to help me get past that.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. You were cutting out.
Get me to actually get to that point where I am going to follow the process and get the evaluations, say the right thing, follow the script.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about too. So
I love it.
Well, so we've had 3 days, 3 steps, right? We were to share our story and follow up on those likes and comments. And then today's is to do one of the 6F posts on Facebook. And so just curious, like we talked about sharing our story quite a bit. I'm wondering what kind of response people are getting. Alex, you talked a little bit about that. Anybody else? Any specific comments that threw you for a loop? Any questions? Anything like that?
I had some people, because I looked at my story. I basically found it from when I posted it a long time ago. And then I kind of updated it a little bit. And in the process of updating it, initially my story was told as though someone else was going to share it. And so it was told in third person. So I went through and I updated it back to me, and I made some grammatical errors, which I noticed on there. And so I had some people give me some pointers that, hey, I had a couple grammatical errors, but, and then a lot of people, so that was good that people were reading it. And then the other thing was people were sharing it. And so there was a lot of that going on. And then many of you shared posted my story, and then it was picked up and reshared from your guys' sites. And so I thought those things were interesting, because the weird part is I'm so familiar with my story. It's like, doesn't everybody know it? I'll be like, I've only told this a billion times, but no. And not only did they may have known it, but they needed to rehear it. Right? Who needs some more inspiration and some more stories of people winning that encourage other people to win? I can't, that's great stuff. Facebook can have a lot of toxicity on there, and to have some healthy, good stuff that inspires you is good. Martin posted something yesterday on our Power Hour group, and it was like a little poem. And there was so many people that commented and like said, thank you for that. And it was like a big deal. So your stories are positive influences in the world, and they're good.
Yeah, one of my friends does a podcast, and it's all about the art of storytelling and just the power of stories, and how you can hear it when it's a good story, you can hear it 100 times and it doesn't get old, and you still laugh at the same parts or cry at the same parts, or whatever that is. I think there is a lot of power in that. And Craig, I had the same kind of an attitude. It's like, I've shared my story a lot, probably not as many times as you have. But it's like, it's kind of, my chatter was, okay, I'm going to do the step. This is, this step, I don't know how much it's going to help me, but I'll do it anyway, because I'm part of this. And I know those steps down the road are going to help me. And I just continue to be shocked too about the response, and some things that, of course, I know. I think it's worth pointing out, because, first of all, I never really think about the fact, but of course, I made my story public on Facebook, and that's definitely something you want to do. And I didn't really think about it, but I was going through looking at the likes, and I had tagged Daniela, and I tagged Jeremy, my husband. Jeremy doesn't do all the health posts. And so I do often try to, when I see he's made new friends, I try to friend them as well, so that they see my stuff. So these people that liked my pictures, I was clicking on them and seeing who are they friends with. Because if they're friends with Daniela, I know she's got them covered. I don't need to friend them. But for sure, I wanted to friend Jeremy's friends. But then I saw this whole other section of people. Because I had made my post public, I had friends that didn't comment on my post that liked it. And they had friends that liked it that I wasn't friends with. And I just, some of those little things is like, oh, wow. Like I forget that it's not just because they liked it, their friends see it. And so I'm friending those people, and I'm going to, I always friend them before I try to send a thank you message or something like that. But that's going to allow them to see my message, just so that I can message them. And it just kind of reminded me once again, maybe all my friends have heard my story, but I know not all of their friends have. And so that was just kind of an aha, kind of a powerful moment for me.
Yeah, that is so huge, Kim. A couple of things that you said, right, about making your post public, because what I found is that people will comment that aren't necessarily friends, but it gives me an opportunity to friend them, right? And then it just sort of trickles on and creates that wider net, I guess, that we're casting for people. So I love that you shared that. I guess another thought along that, and I know, Alex, you brought it up yesterday, but I wondered if you might want to speak to that a little bit, to this group in particular. What happens when you make all those great new friends, or you have, 20 people or 50 people or however many people liking your things? There's some intentional action that really you'll want to make sure happens on your part, sort of behind the scenes. Alex, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Anthony does too.
Yeah.
So I'll keep this really brief, because we have a system that's already been created on the Simple System social media site. And for those of you who don't have access to Simple Systems yet, get with your mentor coach. They will spoon feed out to you what video or what system to use. But I recognized by seeing the overwhelming responses on the Multiple Coaches page that, wait, if everybody's trying to uniquely follow up to how they are going to respond to a comment by somebody who's not their friend or is a friend of a friend, right? Or to their BFF or to a family member or to a like, then this could get all over the place, and it's going to mean hours of training them individually. What if we have a system that already tells us exactly how to respond to those different scenarios and can be really simplified? And what if there's a way to track that in one place that can really work there? And so ultimately we have that. And so ask your mentor to send you those systems that are there on how to create your hundreds list, properly categorize, and what to do on the follow-up sequence. There's a checkbox system in a PDF checkbox system you can print out or leave on your computer and fill out. Your mentor is really going to help you. And if your mentor isn't familiar with that system, ask them to go up to their mentor and work with them. That's huge. I'm not sure if there's anything else beyond that, Daniela, that I talked about, because I talked about several things. You're muted.
Sorry. I think one thing that stuck out to me that I realized that I think fewer people maybe realize than I had thought, and that is the idea that whenever somebody likes anything or comments on anything, buddy, that we make sure they become part of that master list that we have.
Yeah, so I'll go on that because I know what you're going after now. So because now we have this list that we use, and use the system, use the one that's there, unless it just doesn't work for you, but just know you're going to duplicate at some point into another coach. So you want to have something you can get simple and good at. But what we found is, this is what I discovered after talking to coaches, they were responding first with random responses to people, as opposed to creating the habit loop of writing that person's name immediately onto their list first and making notes about them. And the reason why that's so critical is because, think about it, how much can you really remember? You see all this, you're randomly posting, you forgot to write them down, and all of a sudden baby starts crying, right? Phone call comes in. Actually, you're supposed to get back to your other job. Husband, wife, whatever, life comes up. Oh, shoot, I'm late and you run out the door, right? And then those names, and then what happens is it's 3 or 4 days later, and all of a sudden that person's name comes back in your mind. You're like, oh, how many of you have had that happen where somebody liked or commented, you had every best of intention to get back to them, but because you didn't have them on a list and because you didn't have a systematic follow-up process in your calendar or a time, it just goes by the wayside. Again, back to the Einstein principle. He says, I don't try and remember any of that. I have a system and a list for everything, and that's how I follow it. Right? Cool. Is that it, Daniela?
Yeah, I love that, because I think really what you're saying and what you're sharing there is that take care of your own organizational system first before you go out and do, responses and things like that, because quickly that can become chaos and our mind will get confused about.
And that only takes 10 to 15 minutes to put that organizational system in place and know what it is. So don't think it's like, oh, I've got to organize all day long. Get with your mentor and ask them, what is that system look like for me? And what's the one you're recommending? And we're all getting on the same page as a leadership team, so you're going to hear congruence across the board on that.
Would you guys, I mean, everybody that's here today is been around a while, but I'm wondering if some people, when they're told to create a list and to have an organized system, will do it. And some people we need that to be done with us. So I wonder about little workshops on doing some of these types of things as a group, if there's a benefit to do it, doing it together and creating that kind of a thing versus the one-off, one at a time, and maybe some just don't do it at all. It's I always I'm
Martin,
not
are you going to respond to that?
well, I'm not the top third.
Mhm.
There's the top third that'll do it with or without me. They just need to know what to do. I'm the second third that I'll do it with you. I'm not that top third. And so that's just my own personal.
I think on some of that, Craig, is the middle third or maybe the top half of the bottom third would like
You lost me.
would like to do it, but they don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they haven't done it yet. I would love to be organized, but I don't know how to get organized. I don't know how to organize to get organized. So, I'd love to someone just kind of push me in the right direction, or I want to learn how to walk. Who's that person who's holding my hand so I can actually gain a little footage as I'm moving forward.
And that's why I love the concept of power hour or work study session, group work time. Okay, everybody has their binder. Okay, first step, this. And it seems so silly, but if you're all doing it, I'm not going to, I'm not going to not do it. If I showed up, I'm going to do it. It'll get done. So there's just an idea of the different 2/3, or a third.
What you just said, Craig, is so big, and this is piggybacking on Martin. We can assume that someone can just watch the video and implement that. But if their life isn't very organized and their thoughts aren't very organized, all this is another thing of overwhelm. What people are starved for is human interaction, right? And that's exactly what we're asking them to do, is interact with their clients and show them how to do it. Why would we, this is like an epiphany moment that I've heard a million times, but now I can really see it and feel it. This is like for the first time, like with clarity. Why would I spend 15 minutes with you on a video telling you where to go watch a video when I could have in the same 15 minutes actually done it with you and had the whole system implemented and the first names written down and tracked? That's a good question, right? Like,
well,
the answer to your question to me, Craig, is yes, absolutely. Is Power Hour the place to do that? Probably not, because Power Hour has a specific agenda, is using, and I know that Power Hour now is a kind of a brand name in a way for that hour, but Power Hour ultimately means a focused time, right?
Together, a focused time together.
Yes.
To act. Yes.
That's right.
And I think a lot of the trainings that it's when you're moving lots of people, you train to the top third. They just need to know what to do, and they're going to go do something. If you give them some direction, they'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people that we all heard will do it. In the beginning, I was going to do it with or without somebody, and I was just trying to figure out what to do. Mm-hmm. As I've been doing this a while, the things that I haven't done yet, I won't do with or without you. Mm-hmm. I need to do it with you, because that's why they're not done yet. I've heard about some of these different things. How many people, just yesterday on one of the Power Hours, we talked about doing a well-being assessment. And we had people that are global directors that are on there that have big businesses that says, I've never actually done one of those. And I know they've heard about it over and over again. And so I'm really kind of having an epiphany as well, Alex, that I'm the middle third, that I'll do it if we do it together. And isn't that Optavia? Aren't we community?
Mm-hmm. People are starved for this. I love it. Daniela?
Oh, I was just going to say, I love what you're saying. And at the same time, I don't think Power Hour needs to be definitively defined that way. J.C. Dornick originally spoke of Power Hour as you setting aside an hour in a day to really focus your time. And at the core, I think that's what it means. I love what's happening, that we are taking our Optavia community and we're sharing in this and working in this together, because it makes our businesses and our lives less lonely, right? That's certainly a lot of fun. But I know I implement my own Power Hours, if you will, that are on my own. Mm-hmm. So I hear that there's two, I guess there's the Optavia Power Hour, if you will, where it's community-based, and it's probably the optimal way, because I'm pretty sure that it is, because I know I've gotten many ideas just from being part of that Optavia Power Hour, if you will. But I also think there's room to couch that with, if you can't make that time, or you have another opportunity in your day, you can certainly have your own power hour as well.
Let me speak to that for a minute, because the people that will have their own, you're part of the 1/3. So it's just categories. Daniela, you just identified yourself as the 1/3 because you will set up your own power hours and you will get to work. You're going to do it with or without us. But if we tell you what to do, it helps you. And so the people, the middle third, they'll do it with or without you, which means they'll do it with you too. So if we teach to that, you can make, and let's just take the term power hour off because Brandon, I'm just talking group work sessions, right? And so a group work session can't be done by yourself because it's a group, right? And so I remember one time Terry Miller, she had us create these folders, and it was Susan LaBelle, and they would get together with new coaches and they would create their binders and they would do it on Zoom, and it was like, okay, does everybody have their supplies? All right, okay, take your folders, put them in, and all that stuff. And then they all, at the end of that training, I guarantee you, everybody that was there had a binder at the end.
I still have mine sitting right over here. I just went through it the other day. I was like really starting to get systemized with my thinking, going, okay, I went to some of these amazing trainings. I was like, what trainings do you remember that resonated with your heart? And I was going, remember that Sundance? Remember that training? So I was like going through. But there's the aspect of community. And then, like I said, I'm really glad you said, we're not talking about power hour. What we're talking about is identifying the needs of how do we help people move forward, period. And
teach me to do it with me.
That's right. Some people are going to be runners and they still need to plug into the pack so they can make sure that their systems are inspected and duplicating right. And then they're going to go run off on their own. But for majority of people, they are going to need people to do it together. So how does that change? I'd love to hear some of the ideas. How does what we just talked about shift or lift how we approach mentoring and training moving forward?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that very thing. And I think, I guess I want to add just another layer to this. I think I can see myself in different groups in different situations. There's a lot of things that if I just have the information, I'll do it. But that's kind of going back to the previous question about the chatter. Every once in a while, there's some chatter and there's some hesitation. And that's probably when I need to be in a group where I just act with them and do that together. And there's been some situations myself where I've had some genuine things I want to get done. I want to do. For instance, there's a book I've really been wanting to read, but I just am not I'm not prioritizing finding the time to do it. So I started a group. Who wants to read this book? And I read every chapter. I'm leading it because, but there's ways that, I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't be in the middle of that book if I didn't create that community to do it together.
I did that with the Habits of Health. The first time I read the Habits of Health, when we did it together.
Yeah. I mean, there's just power in that, especially if you set up that community and they're relying on you, you're going to do it. So I think there's that aspect to it too. And I think we have to have an awareness about ourselves and see what are those areas for us and raise our hand and raise that issue. Like, okay, yeah, I want to be more organized. This system isn't working for me. Who else is with me? Can we find this together? And it does work that way. So I think whether we're in a leadership position or not, or, anywhere we are, is saying, hey, why am I, I've tried 27 different organizational systems. Why is this a struggle for me? I need to be in a group to help figure this out.
I love what you said there, Kim, because it's almost like there's two categories. And and if you take some time, you'll know what the first category is. The stuff that you were showed to do and you did it. Because it's done. Those are easy to figure those out, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's this category of these gotta do's. Oh yeah, it's those. That category 2 is where we need to develop some work groups. Isn't that when we went to school and you're like, I hate calculus, but I love Jim and all of my friends. So I'll do calculus with Jim. Isn't that why they have study groups in college? Because you hate chemistry or whatever? Would you love your
Well,
friends?
there's the synergy. There's the synergy. And I think what we're getting into right now, and I know there's other comments people want to say, is we're getting into how do we have this shift us and lift us, right, to the next level. And what I'm hearing is that there's a certain level of awareness. At the same time, we have to remember we are the people who are groupies on these calls, right? There's all those other coaches who aren't on this call, who haven't been in this pack, that they don't even know what to be aware of. They just are underneath. They're like sub to their life, right? They're subject to their life, right? And we can all empathize with that because we have moments where we go underneath the line, right?
Mhm.
And we're like struggling for, and you know, here's the thing. When you're not even aware that you're struggling, that's the worst. Because you don't even know how to ask. You don't even know you need to ask. You just think something's wrong with you secretly, and it becomes a self-esteem issue. And then you're embarrassed to even show up because you're the stupid one or not good enough like everybody else. And us dominant personalities literally crush those people. I'm just being honest. I know that. I've had people tell me that, like, you seem to know so much, like I don't know any of that, right? So how do we get good as leader? Ultimately what it is that we just have to, I don't say have to, but it's really, I believe, to facilitate that transformation. It's not so much about talking about it like what we're doing in this leadership circle. It's about us just doing it. It's about us knowing the numbers and knowing we need to invite people to do it with us. So I can tell you, for me, to be very tangible about what I'm saying, in my next training, I'm not going to talk about just where the system is and to watch the video. I'm actually going to get right into the practical application and use my time wisely with them, because it's not just the system I want to implement. It's the community I want to build. It's this resonation that we're getting on this call that I want them to experience, right? It's the team. And I don't need to explain all that to them, because that's just going to overwhelm them until I need to explain that to them so they can become aware and then lead with that, right? But until they move into that position of needing to know this awareness that we're talking about, I'm just going to bring it to them and let them taste it and feel it and move in it, have it lift their life. I'm curious as to what you guys think about that.
Yeah, Alex, one of the things that's really resonated with me as Kim was speaking and as you're speaking is the fact that I don't think any of us is always in any one group, right? And so I think as coaches, we need to think about that. And just because we believe that somebody is that self-starter or has themselves in whatever group number is the one that will have the power hour for themselves or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean I'm always in that group, right? Like Kim says, there's times the chatter goes on in my head and I need to move myself into a different space. I know to do that, but our coaches may not know that. And so they may look like they're in one group. And so I think part of what we need to do is keep watching closely and make sure that they haven't slid out of the group we think they're in, and then coach them appropriately to, you know, whichever category they might be in. Is that making sense? I feel like it's a little bit.
It does. What I'm seeing there is, because it's subjective to the person, you know, like, and again, you have those categories. The stuff that I was told to do, I taught to do, and I did it. You know what those are because you did it, right? So, but the stuff that you were taught to do that is necessary that you didn't do, that's when we have an opportunity. And I don't know if it's maybe a Google form of like these things, didn't do. And then we say, oh, we need a training around that. And let's have a work study, not a training. Let's have a work study, a work session around that. You know, let's do a group activity. And so I don't know what that looks like, but clearly, like, I love the delineation there of what Daniela and Kim had, is there's sometimes you're in the top third on things, and sometimes you're in the middle third. You know, the bottom third won't do it with or without you, by the way.
But as a mentor, or basically as the mentor in the business, and we're transferring these skills, and we're actually, you know, there is this thing called the business coach tracker that had these things listed out that we're supposed to be transferring to individuals that I think has fallen by the wayside. And this kind of ties into what Becca said, that there's the Tinchers look for people that are humble, H2 or H squared S. Hungry, humble, and smart. So they're smart, but they're also humble in the sense that I don't know everything. I need to sit back and listen and how it's being taught. So even though I may be in the top third, I'm okay being in the middle third because these people that have gone before me that have a pretty good business are opening it up and pouring into me. So I need to be humble enough just to listen and absorb what they're trying to tell me.
I love where this conversation is going because as we come together and we get our systems really solid, I think this model could be really powerful. No matter, Craig says, hey, I've got some people that need to get their binders set up. We're going to do this workshop at this time. And then we notice and then a different coach that, you know what, we're going to be practicing our stories, so, I could see a lot of different opportunities for this actual workshop model being time.
So the mentor then needs to basically have that hub control system so that they know where to guide that person so that they're not randomly just all over the place, but caught up in systems land, but not acting, right? So I think that's going to be so I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was just thinking that as you were saying that.
Yeah, I think as leaders, I think this is really exciting to just see where we can take this. And I know we're just about out of time. I was going to end a little bit with just kind of a call for action. And it's more of a general, we're going to we have our action steps daily, which is awesome. And so I guess, Daniela put that out, let's not just try this, let's do it, right? Yeah. And there is such a difference when, I just want to point this thing, it's kind of ironic. When we try, initially our brain thinks it's going to be easier. There's no expectations, all of this stuff. But ironically, it's so much harder because when we've decided that we're doing something, that anytime that chatter comes in our mind, oh, but this, or, I don't really have time, or, whatever, no, I've already made the decision I'm doing this. It's just a matter of when and where and how.
That's right.
And so take that try out because, and I think it's like that on the 5 and 1. I think I'm going to try some, I'm going to try to follow it today. Then every temptation that comes in, you're considering, evaluating, is this going to be the one I go off track for? But if no, I'm following it. It doesn't matter what they bring to the potluck. You're following it. So I just wanted to encourage that. And I wanted to just give a couple things of why action is so important. It focuses on what we're going to do, not on our outcomes. It doesn't matter how many likes or, all those different things. It's like, I'm going to post my story today. And I did it. And I followed through with that. And it also helps us get better faster, which is awesome. Because we don't have to, if we're in constant action, daily action, I love that this is every day. We don't have to regroup, get ourselves geared up. Okay, I'm going to do this. I got to get up. I'm going to do this. It's like, I'm just remaining in action. The momentum is with us. And you don't have to deal with those fears and worries and all of those things each time. And when we take action, we get good, we get better, which helps us gain confidence, believe in ourselves. And the great thing is when we believe in ourselves and we're confident, other people are going to want to join us. It's just going to be so much easier. I think about the analogy of a plane getting liftoff, get that energy going right away. But, if we only give a little energy and we go down, we're never going to take off. So I just wanted to leave that, encouragement for today as we move out into our week.
All right, guys.
This
has been super good. Thank you. So there's going to be some systems that'll need to obviously possibly put in place where we find a time that is going to be maybe the weekly workshop. Ooh, just did 2 W's there. And we can figure out what kinds of things we would put in that. Part of the boot camp power hour is to teach a skill and then do a skill. Teach a skill, do a skill. And so that's part of the rhythm that's kind of being implemented right now with those. So if you guys are in that, you're seeing that. But we're going to keep getting better. This has been great, great time this morning.
Yeah, I just want to say, as we create this, we're not really reinventing anything. All we're doing is we're taking things we've learned, like the business tracker that Martin brought up. We're deciding which of those parts are still relevant, right? Because probably 90% of it's still relevant even with Optavia moving forward and how we've simplified certain things. And then we're going to start putting a coach's name next to this, whether it's on a whiteboard and you're just tracking them in their progress so you can see your team all at once as opposed to separate. I had this vision that as a leadership team, we can talk about what does that look like so that it's in your face every day, not hidden in a binder. and it's relevant, and you can see that the check boxes are left undone, and that can help us decide what workshops right off the bat without me having to go, now what does so-and-so need? No, I can see they don't have X there. That person's going to that one. Done.
All
Love
right,
that.
guys. Well, great stuff. We will see you. Make sure you're plugging into the OHC on a daily basis and doing your 15 minutes, and we'll see you next time around. Take care, everybody.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.